sensing this danger. This is the greatest showman! He is floating on air now! He's going to send it back.
It's the Multicultural AFL Footy Show with Venessa Harbir Fouad Andrews and George Grossios.
Hello, I am Venessa Gatica and welcome to our program. Our panelists tonight are Harbir and George Grossios, and we'll be hearing from Fouad in Adelaide a little later on. So hello guys.
Hello Vanessa.
Hi Harbir, hi Venessa.
Round 7 of the AFL produced some boring results, but by the end of the round there were a few noteworthy contests. Last Friday the West Coast fell in a heap and went into meltdown as Richmond went on a rampage to win by 109 points. On Saturday, Fremantle went to the Cattery and won a tie 1 against Geelong by 3 points. And Adelaide at home had another brain fade, going down to the Giants by 59 points. While Melbourne, even with a depleted side due to COVID protocols, managed to beat Hawthorn by 10 points in an entertaining match. Port Adelaide had another win, this time against the Saints by a point all the way from Cairns. Harbir, what do you make of all that?
Well, I don't know what to make out of West Coast at the moment. The way they are going down and down, and Richmond, and they came to their home ground. So the way they outperformed them in every facet of the game, that was quite stunning to me, because they still we know that they're missing the players, they're missing few things that sort of mojo that they had, but they still have the good names in there. Still they couldn't stand up and to lose by that many points. That's a shock to me, the way they played. Although I must say, another Rioli in the making. So what a performance by him. 2 goals in 2 minutes or so. So that's another Rioli that we will be looking forward to. It was pretty much a Rioli's game. Both of them performed very well for Richmond, and the other one, unfortunately, he had to go out. But all in all, a lot of introspection that needs to be done from West Coast.
Yeah, it looks like they lost more than their mojo, the West Coast Eagles. They lost their hunger, their competitiveness, and that's a damning facet of their play. They just weren't competitive. It's an indictment on their club. They have so many star players in that lineup that aren't performing. Josh Kennedy aside, a wonderful performance by him, clocked up 700 goals, so it's been a magnificent career, and congratulations to him.
Definitely.
But a lot of soul searching needs to be done. The excuses about injuries and COVID have worn very thin.
Yeah, and it was in the West Coast, no excuses there. And what a game we had with Fremantle and Geelong. Fremantle, like everyone's now saying that they're real deal, and it was a very surprising win to me, as beating Cats at their home ground. It's amazing effort, and that too, they're missing Nat 5, we all know, and for this very game, no Matt Taberner in there.
Yes.
Sean Darcy wasn't in there, and still they managed to win over there, where you had all the star-studded lineup. That Tom Stewart, he's meant to be in the back line. He's not meant to get like 40 disposals or so. The way things sort of shaped up in that game, I think that things are looking for the Geelong at the moment. So Tom Hawkins, Cameron, they shut everyone down. Beside from kicking 2 goals at the start, there was no impact from them during the game. So that's a worrying sign for me.
Yeah, Fremantle's defence was outstanding all day to be able to shut down Hawkins and Jeremy Cameron. But Fremantle's midfield has been superb all season, and no exception again on the weekend. Andrew Brayshaw, I've been singing his praises all year. Sam Switkowski, these sort of players have been wonderful. So really, really positive signs for the Dockers. We've been saying on this show for a while that they need to prove themselves by winning an important clash away from home, and you can't get a bigger scalp than Geelong at Cardinia Park or GMHBA Stadium. So really positive signs for Fremantle.
Yep. And Giants proved over the weekend that if they play good game, that's what they can do. When they're all the stars, like they performed. Cornelio was good in that. Jake Kelly came up. Tim Trento showed up. And to top everything off, Green, the mark he took, and he's just so pivotal to that team, and he brings the best out of them. So that's why a couple of weeks back, I predicted them to win against St Kilda as well, because the Toby Green factor is huge, and that has probably changed their team at the moment. And again, talking about Adelaide, in Adelaide, that was a very good game to win, because the way they shut down Bulldogs a week before, they were expected to win that one, and then GWS Giants just came out from nowhere.
Adelaide have been in terrific form lately, and obviously that win against Richmond recently really was a fantastic performance by them, gave them a lot of confidence. But a dose of reality on the weekend, a GWS team with Toby Green, as you say, back to his best, kicking the 4 goals. He makes that team walk taller. Yeah. So if they said that Leon Cameron is a dead duck, this performance showed that he hasn't lost the place. Yep. They're still performing for him. They still believe in his game plan. So there is life left in the GWS.
Thank you, guys. I believe we have Fouad on the line from Adelaide to tell us all about that Port Adelaide victory. Hi, Fouad.
Afternoon, guys. And let's start with a game in Cairns between St Kilda and Port Adelaide. And of course, Port Adelaide won by 1 point, 5-13, 43 to 4-18, 42. In a scrubby game, really, in humid, and the humidity was 88%. So St Kilda, they driven themselves out of the game by not scoring 18 shots, they could not score from. But the hero of the game was Leah, who made life very hard for the forwards of the St Kilda team. After the game, Ken Hinckley was quoted saying he was very encouraged by the performance from his Port Adelaide team and also the resilience. But let's not forget now the game on Friday between Port Adelaide and the Western Bulldogs at the Adelaide Oval, and that's a very big game for both teams. So it's a must-win game for both teams. But the real game comes on Sunday between, of course, Carlton and Adelaide Crows. Carlton coming from a big win and the Adelaide Crows coming from a big loss. So there's a big difference here because Adelaide has to regather and rebuild again in all different positions like defence and midfield and forward. So it's going to be a very interesting game there. And also, let's not forget that I'll be calling that game with my co-host, Ryan Barhoum, from the Marvelous Stadium at 4:40 on Sunday afternoon. That's all from me today, and then I will see you again next week.
Thank you, Fouad. And we'll be back after the break with more reviews and why 6 of the best by Buddy Franklin was not enough for the Swans to beat the Lions at the SCG. All that and more on the other side of the break. Welcome back. Carlton went to town on North Melbourne, winning by 50 points in a game full of reports and 3 suspensions. Collingwood beat the Gold Coast by 25 points. The Western Bulldogs easily accounted for the Essendon Bombers by 32 points, and that game at the SCG with the Brisbane Lions running out winners by 24 points.
The Demons had a good win against the Hawks despite injuries to some important players like Luke Jackson and Keziah Pickett. The Hawks hung in there to their credit. They weren't overwhelmed. It was a tight margin, 10 points. The Demons' juggernaut continues. That's 7 wins this year on the back of 7 wins last year. So it's an incredible record, a team full of confidence and belief in its own game plan.
Definitely. Who can beat them? Just look at the players who replaced them. As you mentioned, Luke Jackson was out, Keziah Pickett was out, Tom Sparrow was out, and even the coach as well. And look at the replacement: Jack Lever, Jack Viney, Tom McDonald, which will be in anyone's team as a first players, not as a replacement. So things are looking very dangerous for other teams as far as Melbourne is concerned.
Yeah, great depth. The Demons, they're really hard to beat at the moment. And the Blues, They've had a topsy-turvy season on their day. They're very hard to beat as well. But let's face it, every team will be beating up on North Melbourne, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely. And Cripps, I think that he can spend more time forward now because he doesn't have to worry about the midfield, nothing else. He's up there with already informed Charlie Curner and Max Styles. That's just beautiful thing for any Carlton fan at the moment. And I believe a couple of games which they even lost, they could have won that too, I suppose.
Yep, and Gold Coast again affected by the travel bug. Couldn't get the job done against Collingwood. Collingwood too strong at the MCG. Good to see Jack Ginnivan continue his fine form. Of course, his Anzac Day exploits were the talk of the town. A great passage of play where he beat 3 defenders and kicked arguably the goal of the day, if not goal of the round. So lots to like about Collingwood. They're travelling well. And again, we keep talking about the Dacos brothers. They performed very well as well. And DeGoey showing his class as well.
Yeah, it's coming up as McRae has found a good rhythm within the team because he has that good blend of experience as well, whereas some young ones, as you mentioned, Dacos, Genoa, they all putting their effort in. So it's coming out to be a very good team, and the players were gelling together each other and sharing their experiences. And Collingwood is definitely looking at a team which gonna go very good in the coming time too.
Yeah, and to perform like that without Grundy, a very impressive effort. Speaking of impressive efforts, the Western Bulldogs in their win over, again, a very disappointing Essendon. Great to see Mitch Wallace kick 2 goals. It's been a very traumatic week for his family, and our condolences to his family. Of course, his mother-in-law passed away in tragic circumstances. The Dogs rallied around him. So great that the Doggies finally had a win. They've had, again, a very inconsistent season.
Yeah, and not to mention Aaron Norton didn't have any influence. Literally, he was on top of him for the whole game. But still they managed to win. That's a very good sign for Bulldogs. And there were not many wasteful shots. So that was another positive thing that came out of that game. So finally they are getting their kicking right. And that was the team which really showed up on a day. And they had this in mind that we're going to win this one. That you could see that hunger as well. Whereas if you look at Essendon, they were not there. Their competitiveness wasn't there, and few of their chances they just lost them. And so many points they got on turnovers.
And for me, the match of the round was Sydney hosting Brisbane. Brisbane finally winning at the SCG for the first time in 13 years. Buddy Franklin back to his best, kicking 6 goals, 4 of those coming in that explosive third quarter when Sydney needed a lift after a disappointing first half. But Brisbane rallied again and ended up comfortable winners, Harbir.
Definitely. And Joe Daniher, they all be looking at his results at the moment. But nevertheless, that team, I don't think Joe Daniher would make much of a difference if it's in or out of the team. They are flying high at the moment.
Thank you, guys. Moving right along, a double-header tomorrow when Port Adelaide take on Western Bulldogs from Adelaide. And Fremantle Imperial plays host North Melbourne. Saturday, Richmond take on Collingwood from the MCG, and Sydney plays the Gold Coast from the SCG. Your comments, please, George.
Port Adelaide will defeat the Western Bulldogs. Their confidence has been renewed after that very close win against St Kilda up in Cairns. Sorry, Harbir.
Yeah, no, that's fine. But I would tend to think differently. I think Bulldogs, they've got their mojo back, and this one, they will prove it by beating Port Adelaide in Adelaide. They've done that in the past, and I'm just going by that the team has got it now.
Yeah, Fremantle taking on North Melbourne. Easy 4 points that Fremantle can bank. They've been fantastic in Perth, so another easy win for them over there. Definitely. For me, the match of the round, Harbir, Richmond taking on Collingwood.
Going to be a good one.
Yeah,
good one.
Definitely. It's going to be a close game as well. Both teams are performing well. Although Richmond had a relatively easier opposition, I would say, and Collingwood bit tough, but they had home advantage too. So it's both teams probably at par at the moment. It's going to be a clash. And you mentioned Fremantle and North Melbourne. They're just a percentage booster. Yeah,
I think West Coast played Richmond back into form from last week. Sydney taking on the Gold Coast at the SCG. I would expect Sydney to bounce back after that disappointing loss to Brisbane last week.
Yeah, we keep on talking to Miller. He's very pivotal to that team. But apart from that, others need to show up as well, and that Gold Coast need to start play 4 quarters, not just here and there.
Yeah, Tom Papley finding his way back. He was a little bit rusty last week. I expect him and the Sydney Swans to bounce back with a good win.
Yeah, and watch out, Buddy Franklin.
Another interesting aspect of this week's round, it's the Sir Doug Nichols Indigenous round, and Melbourne will rebrand itself as Naarm Football Club for this particular round. Naarm is the Aboriginal name for Melbourne, and it comes from the Woiwurrung, the language spoken by the traditional owners of the city and its surrounds. So a wonderful initiative by Melbourne, and well done to Melbourne and Woiwurrung Cultural Heritage Aboriginal Corporation. It's a fantastic act and great recognition, so well done to all parties.
Definitely, and it will go a lot far with all the racism issues that we have, and Indigenous players feeling more connected to this game more than before. So I think that's a great gesture by Melbourne Club.
Yeah, and it's a fantastic round. Always great that the Indigenous community get this recognition. Melbourne bringing out some fantastic merchandise for this particular round.
Going to be amazing. Thank you, guys. We'll go to a break and return with the round 8 previews. Stay tuned. The GWS Giants play Geelong from Manica. Essendon hosts Hawthorn at Marvel Stadium, while the Brisbane Lions, home at the Gabba, take on the West Coast Eagles, while on Sunday, Melbourne tackle the Saints and Carlton play Adelaide from Marvel. Who wants to take it, guys?
Well, I suppose it's going to be a very good game to start with GWS Giants and Geelong. That has the potential to be a real cracker. I'm good that, as we mentioned before during the game, that GWS Giants have done something to their team. I don't know what they've done, but all those players have stood up.
Yeah, what they've done is Toby Green, Harbir.
Yeah, definitely. But that's a big factor. So I think this is going to be a cracker of a game. And Geelong, they'll be ruining their chances. So they will show up on that day, come up on the top. I believe Geelong might have an edge on that.
I'm going to tip GWS Giants. I was really impressed with their performance against Adelaide last week. Okay, you could say that it was only Adelaide. Adelaide have been in terrific form, but I just like the way the Giants went about their performance. They played the 4 quarters. They moved the ball really well. And if they replicate that style of football again, they're going to trouble Geelong. So I'm going to tip the Giants by 15 points.
Wow, okay.
In a close one. So,
yeah. Essendon versus Hawthorn. That has the potential of a good game, but it's only, don't know what Essendon's going to do. At the moment, they are in shambles at the moment, I would say. Everyone is after them. And I expected them to come up with a much better performance last week, but they didn't show up on that day either. So they're lacking that competitiveness. Hawthorn should win the one.
I'm going to tip the Hawks. They've been terrific in recent weeks. And the Bombers, the one win for the season. If they lose this one, which I think they will, it's basically curtains for them. So they may as well start playing the young kids and develop for next season.
Yeah, and looks like next one's going to be a percentage booster for Brisbane against West Coast Eagles. West Coast Eagles, I don't think they stand a chance with this red hot running Brisbane at the moment.
Yeah, Brisbane for me will win by about 20 goals, boost that percentage. As you say, Harbir, West Coast have been atrocious all year. Melbourne versus St Kilda, a great lineup on paper. The Saints disappointing. Fouad gave us a good summary of that. They just couldn't kick straight on the night. They need to be accurate because Melbourne will punish them anytime they turn the ball over.
Good test for both teams, but I can't go against Melbourne yet. They're just simply unbeatable at this stage.
And the Blues taking on Adelaide at Marvel Stadium. The Blues in some reasonable form. They've been a little bit inconsistent, losing their third quarters, so their second half performances haven't been the greatest. They need to string some consistency, and I think they'll do that against Adelaide.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Carlton for me in this game. Adelaide, however, can put up a very good show as they did against Bulldogs. They have the potential to do that, but Carlton, and they're too good at the moment as compared to Adelaide.
And exciting news for our listeners and viewers, the Carlton-Adelaide match will be covered by Fouad, the dulcet tones of Fouad covering the match in Arabic. So we're looking forward to his call. Hopefully, Adelaide are competitive because Fouad will be very biased in his commentary at times. I think we know how passionate he is. So hopefully Adelaide can keep the game competitive, even though, of course, we're tipping the Blues. Yeah. But also we would like to say a big thank you to Nadine Rabar, who has assisted our show over the years in her role as the media manager at AFL. Congratulations, Nadine. You've secured a position with the Collingwood Football Club. We wish you all the best in that position. It's an exciting opportunity by the sounds of it.
Yeah, definitely. And I believe not many people can understand the needs of the multicultural people. And Nadine's been there always for us. And the way she understood all the people from the multicultural backgrounds and the support she has provided to all of us, not just for the show, and then other commentary as well, and all the effort she did with us meeting other commentators. That was just phenomenal. And yeah, good luck to you, and hope you have a very good time at Collingwood Football Club, Nadine.
Thank you, guys. And before I go to my tips, we would like to let you know that the NEMBC has 2 Diversity Match Day broadcasts happening this weekend. This coming Saturday, May 7, starting 1:45 p.m., the NEMBC presents the Match Day broadcast from the MCG between Richmond and Collingwood in the Italian language with Angela Khan. And on Sunday, May 8, our Match Day broadcast from Marvel Stadium between Carlton and Adelaide, starting at 4:40 p.m., will be the Arabic language with Fouad from the Footy show, of course, and Ryan Barhum. You can hear both broadcasts on the AFL app live. Very well, this brings me now to my tip selections, and this week I'm going for Western Bulldogs, Fremantle, Richmond, Sydney, Geelong, Hawks, Lions, Melbourne, and Adelaide. Well, that is all we have time for this week. You can also watch us in Adelaide on Channel 44 Friday, 6:30 p.m, on Aurora Foxtel at 1 p.m. Saturday, and on the NEMBC AFL YouTube. You are listening to this podcast on the Community Radio Network, and the AFL Diversity News in 8 languages can be heard on select national multicultural radio stations. I am Venessa Gatica, and from our panelists, Harbir and George, good night, and we shall see you next week.